Okay, I'm Donna Baugh, and I teach textiles at BYU. And so I thought what I'd do today is show you two of the projects that we do to help teach some of the concepts that we're teaching. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is a wet felting bookmark. And I order my stuff through Living Felt, and you can get a kit or you can just get the wool roving. So when I get a kit, I get the olive oil soap, and I've cut it in half because it's kind of big. And then you also get the little bamboo or wood kind of mat here. And then you also get this mesh. Is that okay? And then this is my towel. We had some plastic that we put down to kind of protect the counter. Oh, and it comes with a bowl and a sponge, I think. Anyway, what I often do is I'll buy a regular kit and then I'll buy extra roving. And you can get it, like here's some roving here in these little packages. You can get more colors that way. Or here's just extra wool roving. So I buy that, and then I have some extra yarns and stuff that you can put into the bookmark as well. Okay, so let me show you. First of all, what you're gonna do is I put plastic down. Now we use a little video from Living Felt. They have a wet felting bookmark video. And so I put together a little video with a little PowerPoint, just a few slides explaining the steps. So they can watch the video and then they can see the steps. And on that one, they put a towel down first and then a little bit of plastic. But I like to put we have the thicker plastic, so I put that down first, then a towel, then the mat, and then I have my mesh here. So first, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your roving, your wool roving, this is 100% wool fibers, and you're gonna arrange it however you want. So let's say I wanna use a couple of these colors. So maybe I'll kinda, and you don't wanna get it too thin, so you just kinda lay it out. I'm gonna put a little bit of brown with it. And usually for a bookmark, you'll make it kind of rectangular. So maybe let's put in some red, and then I'm gonna put in some darker brown. So I'll kind of put this like that. This one's a little bit long, so I think I'll take some of that off. And let's see, what don't I have here? The green, the dark green. So then I can put some of this in. Okay, so I've just got this going. This one's a little bit, I'm gonna get this one. There. Okay, so now I've got this going, and I'm gonna throw in a little bit of yarn just to kind of liven things up a little bit. You can grab some of this other, like, here's some orange that would be kind of fun to put in. But you have to kind of tuck that in a little bit because it doesn't, like the wool will hang on to it. But okay, so now I'm just gonna kind of bring that in, and you want it to overlap. See how it's overlapping? And I'm not an expert at this, so you gotta practice and try it out. But I've got this, this one is kind of a thin piece, but it's okay. I'm just gonna show you kind of how it goes. Okay, so once I get that all in there, then I put the mesh over it. Okay, and this, I mean, we've used this a few times and it's been washed a few times. And so I'm gonna put that over top, kind of stabilize it. Try and get that to go out. Okay, and then the next thing I'm gonna do is I have some water here. You wanna get hot water, and you want to have a sponge, and I get these little graters at Walmart, and I just put in a little bit of soap here. So I'm just grating some soap in. And this is olive oil soap. And the reason you want that is because it's not a sudsy soap. And it's, oh, careful. And it's just, I got the bunch here. And it's just nice and mild. And it feels good on your hands. You're like, wow, this is so soft. So you're gonna have nice soft hands. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this is kind of a small bowl, but it came with it, so I'll use it. And you kind of get your water on it. So this is the first step is to get water. And you can see it, I've got soap here, but it's a low sud soap. You don't want a big sudsy dish soap or anything. And you just get it all wet. Okay? And like I said, I'm not an expert. I just sort of, the students have a lot of fun. So the concept we're teaching here is wool has little scales on the fibers. So when you get it wet with some hot water, some soap, and agitation, then it causes those scales on the outside of the wool fiber to tangle up together, and you can felt it. And this is the fulling process, which means it's starting to felt. And so, so I'm just kind of getting this wet, and then I'm going to kind of peel this off a little bit, and I'm going to I'm just going to gently turn that and put this back on. And what I'm going to do now is, I think I've got it wet pretty good. Probably soaked it here. So now I'm going to go like this, and kind of like you're just rubbing somebody's back here. You're just being gentle. Don't worry, the harder part will come when you can get your frustrations out. But right now I'm just sort of gently rubbing this. So I'm starting that fulling process. So they'll start to felt together. Okay, and now I'm gonna, so you wanna do that for 5 minutes. Okay, so we'll pretend that's 5 minutes. Okay, now you're gonna turn it, and I'm gonna do this side. And if it starts to get a bit dry, you wanna make sure that your hands kind of glide over. So that's what your soap will help you do, is kind of glide over. And so, and I'm thinking this area here didn't get too much. And remember, right where they join, that's where you really want to make sure they, so do this for 5 minutes. Okay. So let's say I've done that for 5 minutes. Now we'll go to the next step. Okay, so the next thing is, I'm going to roll it. So I'm actually going to bring it like this, and you can roll it up like this, and then you can roll it in a towel, and that kind of helps you to maintain that. So now I'm going to roll it like this, and now what I'm going to do is, they call it rock and roll. Yeah, so if you want to put on some Beatles song, that will help you. I did that for one of my labs and they loved it. They really got into it. So just roll it, and you want to do you kind of want to go like the full length of your hands, kind of like that, and you want to do it 50 times. Okay, so we'll pretend that's 50 times. And then you're going to unroll it. Let's get this over here. And you're going to undo it. Stay there. Okay, and now you're going to take it and you're going to turn it a quarter turn. Boop. So turn it, and then get this out of the way. Put this back on. In fact, I don't even know if we need it at this point. I think we can just go like this now, because it's staying together. And then now I do it 50 times this direction. $50 times. Okay, and now let's see how that looks. Let me move this towel up. Okay, let's do this. Okay, that looks great. And now, so I keep turning it the same direction, so I gotta make sure. Now I do it this way. So 50 times each direction. So that's the third. So keep track. And then we do it again. Okay, 50 times, 50 times, okay. And again, you can kind of tell your students a little bit more about wool and how its properties. Oh, look, I'm over, whoops. Okay, now turn it the same direction. and this way, and do it again. Okay, so once you get it done, now I look at this and I think, hey, so you don't want it splitting right here. See, now look, that's a pretty good bond right there. And look at that, that's become, you want it to become as one. This is a little bit less, but what I'll do is I'll trim this off. I'll trim it, and I'll trim it. And then to do my bookmarks, because I want all the colors in, I'll probably trim it here and then trim like this. So anyway, once I get it all done, where I feel like it's good. And now see, it's a little too thin here. So I should have used a little thicker piece of the brown. But now I can, if I want to, I can sort of put some on my hands, and then I can go like this. I'm kind of putting more, see, you have to be careful. See, now that's starting to come apart because that's not together too good. But you can kind of start to go like this. I don't know, usually at this point, my students, and see, that's not good, that's bad. So I'm trying to show you something bad too. If I wanted to, I could take some of this and put it here and kind of start again. Like I could kind of, whoops, now see how it moves? See how it moves without the net. So I want it, so if you have a problem where the students got it a little too thin, then you may want to, like I kind of have them start over again a little bit. So really, just by doing that, I can already tell that's helping a lot. I've got quite a bit of soap in here. So I'm just gonna, I think I'm just gonna get a little bit of water. And this is a good project to, like my students do this in like, they can have this done in 45 minutes plus watch the little video. And I can send you the little PowerPoint I use with the video link as well. But yeah, so now I've got that. I would probably do this again just because I've added that in. And see, you can see that's already starting to mesh good. So that's making that nice and a little bit thicker right in that spot. So now I can, and if I want to use the mesh when I roll it up, and maybe I will this first time, but you have to be careful here. Well, forget it, I'm done with that. Okay, so you can, and sometimes I roll it up with the towel, but I kind of like to roll that up first and then with the towel. So now that I've added that new piece, I would probably start over again on the rocking and rolling it. So, and do it, and then again, 50 times on each one. Okay, once you get that done, then, whoops. Okay, let's get that down. There. So turn it, anyway, so keep turning it and working it. Okay, so I think that's good. And that helped a lot. And I think it's, I mean, I should work with this a little bit more, but pretty much, and see, I've got this, that really went in good. This one is a little bit more on the top, but that's okay. And so like, you can put, like I've got some white thread in here, right? Just some of these fancy yarns. Brick rack's kind of fun. But soutache braid is fun, but it doesn't mesh in as well as some of your yarns that are more of a spun yarn. So this might be fun to do something like that or something. Okay, so now I'm just gonna let it dry, and then I'm going to trim. So if I trim this off and then I cut strips like this, then I'll have some cute bookmarks. And you can see on this picture of the bookmarks, and then you stitch the edges. Now this is showing where they've just zigzagged it with maybe a white thread or even a monofilament nylon, which is clear, or sometimes usually what I do is often I'll just serge, because when you do a zigzag like that, sometimes it pulls the felt because of the pressure. So if you really lightened up your pressure and got a looser stitch, but we usually just serge ours, and then you can make it kind of fun. Let me show you what some of the students did today, because we did this lab actually today. So I'm going to bring this over and show you. Look, mine looks kind of like this one. But look at what one student did this. they kind of got it more, they wanted to kind of spread it out more. So that's kind of fun. Here's another one a student did. And I told him you don't have to cut it up if you don't want. This student, I thought looked like Play-Doh, but she had it and the pieces were kind of falling apart. So I had her take another piece of the wool and just push it out and leave that for kind of a backing. And that worked really good because now that's nice and thick. Here's another one. This was a cute one. One of the students did. She kind of did more, instead of doing stripes like I did, she did more kind of little pockets, little pieces. And then I've never had a student do this, but she actually braided hers. She took kind of those long strips and kind of braided it. And I thought that looked really cute. And that worked out good where it's braided. And then if she wants it like, well, whatever she wants to do with it, but, or just a long bookmark. It looks like a little torch or something. And then this one was really cute. This was quite wet. So, and she's gonna just trim that off, but look at how fun that looks with her colors. So anyway, it's a fun project. Students love it. And then what I do now is, we have lab once a week. So now I'm just going to let this dry. And then when I come in next week, I'll bring in a rotary cutting mat with some rotary cutters and let them trim it off. And then if they don't have, some of them have sewing classes, they can cut up how they want, and then I'll just have my TA help me and we'll just go serge them. But anyway, it's a fun project. Wet felting bookmarks. I'm going to show you another lab that I do with my textiles class. And this one is Batik Dyeing, and the students love this lab. And I have figured out how to do this in an hour with students. And it's kind of crazy. I've tried all sorts of things. But what I ended up doing, after trying lots of different things, I found that soy wax is the best for what I'm doing. And then what I do is I have some of these little pots, little crock pots, and I put in the wax and get it heated up and melted. So I have a couple of these small little crock pot things. And you know, you can ask people. I think I found one of these at a garage sale. But most people get these with a crock pot and they never use them, like me. So I bring those in. I also went and got an old fry pan. And so that's really good to melt your wax. But I like the soy wax. So Batik Dyeing is a resistant dyeing. And so what you do, your wax acts as the resistant. Because our lesson is on resistant dyeing, we also do tie-dye. And even though they've done tons of tie-dye, they still love it. And I say, bring in a shirt or whatever you want to do. So they they bring in the article of clothing, and then I buy the tie-dye kits. And that's also a resist dye. But that, of course, is a resist dye through rubber bands, tying it, things like that. I also show them a little bit of shibori, because shibori is where you use needle and thread, and they can sew stitches in there or whatever, and it's also resist. And with shibori, you can also like put a marble in here and tie some string around it, or do a series of those, or little tiny dots, or you can kind of bring it over like this and zigzag or something. So with the tie-dye, they can do a little bit of shibori. I teach them a little bit of that just to play around. And then they can also run into the sewing labs and do some stuff. But mostly what I'm going to show you today is the batik dyeing, because that's really fun and unique. So what you do in regular batik dyeing, usually what you'll do is dye your fabric a light color, and then you'll take your wax and you'll make a pattern. And a lot of times they use a tanging knife. I'm probably not even saying that right, but it looks like this. And see, this has got wax on it, but you pour the hot wax in here, and then you can do patterns with it. And some of your, like in Indonesia, Uzbekistan, a lot of those countries will take these tanging tools, and then they'll do their little fun designs with the hot wax. And you have to use it quick before it dries. And typically with batik dyeing, they'll use just a regular beeswax. But the thing about the wax is that it's hard to get out. So what I found is that with the beeswax, they say then to put it in some boiling water and keep it weighted at the bottom, and the wax will come up to the top and you can get it off. Well, when I did that, so did all my dye. And plus, to do it that way, you have to tub dye it, like in a sink or a tub or something, the whole piece. Then you have to let it dry. Then you put on your wax pattern, and then you dye it again. Whatever, you know, so it's just a series. And so that, as you can see, would take a long time. So what I do is soy wax. And the soy wax is great because I can get it out with a hot iron or even a sink, warm water. So soy, and it can dry, it can just go down the sink. So that's what I use. So the first thing I tell my students is we're not gonna dye it first in a tub bath. We're just gonna, it's almost like batik dyeing with fabric paints. So what I do, and I supply students with this little apron. This is just a little plastic apron. And then I give them all gloves. And then I buy big drop cloths of plastic, and I put them down on the tables. So this is just a small piece of plastic, but drop cloths work out great. And then the other thing you may want to do is newspapers or paper towels. Let me just grab some paper towels here. I've got plastic on the bottom, but then your paint, you kind of need to soak it up. So I'll often put it here. Now, what I have them batik dye is a silk. I get all my supplies for this from Dharma Trading, D-H-A-R-M-A, Dharma Trading. This is a little Habitai silk scarf with the edges finished. And this one has been washed before we dyed it, but really those scarves come ready to dye. They have no dyes or finishes on them, so they work great. This is really small, but they're inexpensive. You can also, my favorite size is this, because I feel like the students have a little bit more room to create, and this is something they can put around their neck, or a lot of them put around their backpack, or things like that. But these work too, these little, just these little handkerchiefs. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that. Okay, so then the next thing you're gonna do, and I've got this plugged in, is I have brushes here for the wax, and I have brushes here for the paint. So I'm gonna take a brush here for the wax, and it's kind of stiff, but when I put it in this hot wax, of course, it becomes flexible because the wax comes off and melts. So now I'm gonna take my wax and I'm gonna do a design. Now, I'm just doing this kind of quick, so don't judge my artistic skills because there aren't a lot there to judge. But what so they kind of come over here. Maybe they want to do kind of a little zigzag pattern, and it has to go all the way through the fabric. So that's why I like the paper towels. And I'm just gonna draw this little kind of zigzag thing. So I'm just gonna do kind of a marble look. And I really didn't even think this through. So if you want to have your students first come up with a design, that's always a good idea. But I'm just gonna kind of wing it here. Okay, and see, I can tell that this is going all the way through. And then I think I'll do some little dots or something, or like some little boop. Or maybe just, now you could just flick it. Hey, there's an idea. Okay, yeah, see, you can just do all sorts of things. And since I flicked it first and I liked it, that's what I'm doing. And you can have tools. Different tools are fun for them to use. Okay, very cool, very cool. Okay, now I'm just gonna unplug it here because I'm done with the wax. Now you can also, this is a potato masher on the fry pan. I can put that in and do some patterns like that. You can use the tangine tools. Now these are some blocks that I got for block printing, and I actually got these at the B&A in London, and they have these cute little designs. And the students started using them when they dip it in the wax and go out. It creates that design. But the wax is kind of hard. Hot water will get it out. But you could also just put it in paint, but you'd have to put paint in a little thing. So some block prints are fun. Okay, so now once I have that, okay, I'm just gonna kind of lift it up because I want that to start to melt. But the thing about batik dyeing is that when they put the wax in, they kind of like the edges to crackle. So that's the one thing about the soy wax. You won't get the crackled edges as much as you will with beeswax. But if you just kind of, like, you can kind of squish it up a little bit. Let's see what happens now. What do we do? See, and that kind of gets your edges. You kind of, if your edges, if it's the wax, you can kind of get the edges kind of more heathered looking. But it's a little harder to do with the soy wax. But all things given, that's the best. Okay, now I've got that. I'm going to do some painting. And see, you can see how the wax has gone all the way through. Wherever my wax is, paint will not go. So let's start with this nice fuchsia. And now I'll get my brushes that are for paints. And even though they look one color, they've been rinsed off good. And so I'm just gonna take my paint. So I kind of do fabric painting with this rather than keep dyeing it in it, because this I can do quickly. So now I can just paint away. This one looks like it's kind of watered down a bit. Let me try one of these other ones. I have a whole box of paints, so I never know what the students have used. Wait, you know what? I'm gonna do this. And let me show you the paint that I use. It's called Dynaflow, and it's just a liquid color for natural and synthetic fabrics. And this one is chartreuse, this color, one of my favorites. Okay, so now let me see. So it is very liquidy, but see now that, and you can see how it's, so I can, maybe I can start and do some of the inside with that. But you can kind of see how it doesn't really go on the wax. So I'll kind of do maybe patches a little bit. Okay, so there's that one. I'm gonna also use this blue. So here's a brush that looks like it had blue in it. Okay, so let's get some over here. So, and then if you want, you can kind of run your colors in. Sometimes what they'll do is, and students get kind of messy here, I will tell you. And so you can see how it's really soaking up. And this one is a lot thicker. So that pink one, I wonder if it got water in it or something. Or maybe if sometimes when they clean their brushes, they might not get all the water out. So let's kind of, see, and I'm going crazy here with this. Lots of color. And see, you can actually kind of do brush strokes so that it also, well, you can see that's where the wax is. Sometimes they'll do the whole thing. Sometimes I'll use different colors. Okay, time for a different color. Let's try this pink again. Yeah, it's really watered down. I'm gonna try shaking it and see if maybe it's settled. Oh, hey, there we go. Okay, maybe that'll help. Okay, now, if you'll notice too, I'm wearing an old t-shirt with this apron over it. So I wear an old long sleeve, look, see, holy t-shirt, because I don't want to get my clothes. Oh, see, that helped. I just need to shake it. Okay, so I'm going to try and get, let's kind of go over to this corner. So by having this paper towel, or newspapers work. You can just put this over a newspaper. So there we go, there we go. Okay, and now let's get a little bit more green. See, I'm making a mess. That's what's fun about this. You can make a mess. And then if I kind of run my colors in to each other, that's, I think, that's a clever little art trick right there. There, okay, what do you think? Okay, so now I think I'm done. And as you can see, it's crazy. So what I try and do, well, I can't do it very well here with one hand, is here, I'm just gonna go like this. Now you can see how handy that plastic is. And so it actually dries really quick. But I'm just gonna I'm gonna go get another piece of paper towel. So what I do is the students finish up by the time, and they actually do tie-dye and batik dyeing in the 1 hour. So I have half the class start with this, and then the other half does their tie-dye. Okay, so I put it on some different one, and then when they're finished, I usually have some newspapers or a bunch of paper towels, and I lay it out on another table, and then when they're finished, they bring it over and lay it down. And honestly, on the drop cloths, even though it doesn't seem like it's the best place to put wet things, it works fine because it might stick for a few minutes, so then you can usually peel it off. Sometimes they soak the paint on. I mean, this is really good because sometimes they've got so much paint on, it's like dripping. So try not to have them drip the paint. Just paint it. Anyway, okay, now, while that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and just put the lid on here, and I'll take my 3 brushes into the sink. Oh, I forgot to show you something. Okay, I can do it still. Okay, this right here is Jacquard Silk Salt, and it's really fun to use. And what I do is I put a little bit here, and then I sprinkle this on while it's wet. See, it's almost too dry. But I sprinkle that on, and this salt soaks up the color where it hits, and then it makes little speckles. So there's some places where this will stay. And so, but you have to do it when it's wet. So I kind of almost forgot. So it's a little, I should have done it right after I painted. But anyway, that's really fun. You can just get that by itself. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm gonna show you some that I've got here that students did that they never picked up. But there's something, you could just do something as simple as this. This one's a cute one. Kind of a red, white, and blue kind of look. And this one's a fun one with the blue and the grande, different patterns. And honestly, I might have done a few of these. I can't remember. This one's really cute. And then I really like this one. So those are just some of them they've done. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry overnight. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these away. And then, so after they're all dry, how do you get the wax out? Well, I'll tell you. What you're gonna do is get more paper towels or newspapers. And I have a press board in the sewing lab that says do not use, for batik dyeing only. And I put down this big press board with the canvas and stuff. And then I take this after it's all dry and I get the salt off. So you have to take the salt off, but can you see where it's kind of pulled out some color in little dots? Like kind of right in through here. And so that's a fun way to add a little bit of variety. Yeah, see, you can see where the little dots, someplace where it's dry, hasn't dried. Okay, so once this is all dry, I'm gonna get some more paper towels so I can show you. So I'll usually put a couple pieces underneath, and then I put a couple pieces on top, and then I take my warm, dry iron, no moisture, no steam. And so I have, like, let's say that I've got a couple layers underneath and a couple layers on top, and then I put that on there. See, this is still drying, and I iron it. And when I iron it, you can see the wax build up coming onto here, and it looks like this. You can see it kind of, see how you can see that wax right here? It melts it and lifts it. And what it also does is sets the color. And so I do that, and I tell my students to put 2 or 3 underneath, 2 or 3 on top, iron it good, turn it, iron it again, and keep ironing it until they don't see any more wax. And then they're good to go. Now look at how interesting. See the green and the blue? Or yeah, see how dark green that is? You could also do this talk about colors and color theory, you know, color harmonies and stuff. Anyway, that'd be fun to do that. Tell them to use certain colors that will create a look, different looks. Anyway, batik dyeing is so much fun, and it does get messy, I'm gonna tell you. But once you make the initial investment of something to heat up, your brushes, this lasts for a while. The thing that I have to buy every year new is the scarves, and honestly on Dharma Trading for these little ones, that's only like a couple dollars. To do the bigger ones, which I've kind of started buying the bigger ones, but it depends on your budget and if your students have money. That might be $3 or $4. I can't remember. If you buy them in bulk, it helps. And then I have my brushes that I bought just at Walmart and stuff, and I got those for wax, and then I have the other brushes for color. And I just wash them out and reuse them. So each year I have to replenish my soy wax usually. Every couple of semesters I'll replenish wax. And then of course gloves, aprons, and then drop cloths. Once I get a drop cloth and use it, I throw it away, which is very satisfying. Anyway, it's really a fun project, and if this was not a virtual conference, we could actually do a class where you guys come in and create something, and then I just have you. I think you pay a little. I used to do that at the summer conferences, and then you just pay a little small fee, and then I can purchase stuff, and we can have fun creating. And then usually what you do is we leave it there to dry, and you take it on your way home. But really, it doesn't take very long. This is almost dry. So fun project. Try it. Your students will love it. And there's lots of different concepts. The resist dye, different types of dye, and also colors, patterns, whatever you like, you can use in your class.